Get ready for a no BS approach to health and fitness. This is NBS Fitness Radio.
Welcome back to NBS Fitness Radio. I'm here with Matt Harford, one of our trainers here at NBS. And Matt is going to speak today about some tips for continued progress. So in the scheme of like, what's the secrets of success, which is, that's kind of what people ask, like, what's the secrets of success? And I was thinking about this lately is the real secret to success is consistently taking appropriate action. It has to be consistent. If you're on and off, you will never find success because you will always be backtracking. It has to be appropriate action. If you're taking action that's not moving you forward, you're basically just running in place, right? And the key word is action. You have to be doing something. And so where a lot of people may look to have, like everyone knows how to have like the quick success. It's like, I need to lose 30 pounds or I need to lose 10 pounds in the next 30 days. Like, well, like that's pretty easy to happen.
Yeah, we cut calories, add in some exercise, up, boom.
Yeah. The question is how to do that consistently. So that's kind of the topic for today. So with that introduction, Matt, give us your first tip for continued success.
Cool. So when I get into tips for exercise, nutrition, training, stuff like that, big thing I'm looking at first is just simplicity. Like, no matter what level the athlete is, whether they're advanced, whether they're just starting out, we need something that we can do simply so that we can do it every day and further progress ourselves out. So to quote the famous Chris Hoppe, keep it simple, stupid, right? So find something that you can do that is going to level you up little bit by little bit every day, every month, every year, every decade. Because anybody can add 30 pounds to their bench press in 1 month. But can we add 30 pounds to your bench press, in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? Can we keep leveling up without the huge plateau that comes with some fast progress like that?
Yeah.
So I think that, the first thing is just keeping it as simple as possible. It's really fun to get into like the nitty gritty of the exercise science and get into all the books and stuff like that. But if you're not a high level athlete, a really, really high level athlete, it needs to be very, very simple.
Yeah.
So for 99% of us, it needs to be simple.
It's almost like you have to kind of build the foundations and have some consistency 100%. There before you start stacking on top of that. I do think there's an issue where people will look out and see people, see the high level people who've been doing this for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guilty of this. I've been got over 2 decades of kind of like training consistently. And the other day, someone would ask me like, "Well, do you wear a Whoop?"
Yeah.
And I was like, I did for a little bit, but it really didn't tell me anything I didn't know. And my response was, I was like, man, as long as I follow my macros, I get 8 hours of sleep, I do my, I train every day, and then I do my, my hot cold stuff on a regular basis. Like, I'm good. I'm recovered. And they were like, they made the response was like, that's like the stars aligning for everybody.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And so like, if someone was like listening to me and it was like, well, what's it take to have, but to be recovered and feel good every day, there's like, well, you got to follow macros, you got to train every day, you got to get 8 hours of sleep, and and then there's like, there's a rabbit hole for each one of those. Yeah. Like there's my sleep routine. And so there can be a tendency to say, well, how can I know I've got this giant gap to bridge. Like, how can I bridge it as fast as I can? And the reality is like, well, bridging it fast is not nearly as important as like
just bridging it
and keeping it bridged. So you're not, going back and forth. And so the strategy is like, man, pick something simple.
Yep.
Implement that. Let it become a habit where you don't have to think about it, and then we'll start stacking on top of that. Can you give us some examples of what you mean by simple, or some some real world examples?
Like real world training examples. So like, say we're keeping it simple. Say you're an athlete that can't squat your body weight yet. But you get into the YouTube realm and you're like, oh, I want to add bands and I want to add chains and I want to do this conjugate block and this and that. It's like, can't squat your body weight first. Let's just work on building a solid technique or squat from a technique purpose, and then start building some actual muscle hypertrophy, and then we can build some strength after that. And then once that starts going up, and you've been doing it for a year or two, and you're consistently training that, then you can add in some of the fun, odd stuff like that. But I mean, if you can't squat your body weight and you're looking for ways to do higher skill specific stuff to help with squat, it's not really going to make that big of a difference.
Gotcha. Yeah. It's like, if you want to squat 2 times your body weight, step 1 is
squat 1 times your body weight.
And the step before that is learn to squat.
Yeah. Learn to squat. Yeah.
Like you're not going to be able to squat 2 times your body weight with poor technique. So learn to squat first.
Yep.
Do the basics. I kind of think of it like playing cards or poker. It's like if you have a long-term approach to it, then you're more likely to like last throughout the game and win on the back end. But if you're like, I'm gonna go all in on the very front end, that's a big risk. You can't play that hand again. So if your first hand you play is like, I'm gonna do this very complex training. With all these complex training tools, what happens when you hit a plateau?
Then it's like, oh, right. Well, I never hit square one, so it's either drop back and work on that, or try to keep pushing forward and hurt myself eventually, and then fall off completely.
What about like for nutrition? What are some kind of simple strategies? Like what's an example of keeping it simple?
Some simple stuff for nutrition is high water intake, high protein intake. Like obviously, again, with both nutrition and training, that the best program that's going to work for you is one that you can stay consistent and do every day, right? But as it comes to nutrition, like if we can get in a gallon of water for most individuals, and we can get in about 50 grams of protein for each main meal, you're going to be rocking and rolling just by really not that much effort. It's like 50 grams of protein add in here, you add in a protein shake, now you're at almost 200 grams of protein for the day, and you really didn't have to try that hard to do that. It's not taking you that much time to do that. 'Cause that's gonna be people's biggest constrict on nutrition is time. How much time do I have to prep? How much time do I have to heat up, carry, stuff like that? So if you can just focus on up your water tank, have a high protein intake, and you go from not following any nutrition guidelines to that, you're gonna be making progress right off the bat.
Yeah, I think with that, it's kind of an inclusion and exclusion component. So there's like the inclusion component of like there's benefits to adding in more protein and adding in more water. But there's also what that ends up doing is like by increasing your water intake and increasing your protein intake, you're more likely to feel satiated throughout the day.
Yeah, definitely.
You're probably not going to want to drink more liquid on top of a gallon. So that keeps us from smashing Cokes or fruit juices or coffee loaded with
all this
heavy
sugar
cream,
and sweetener, just everything in it.
Yeah, it keeps us from hitting that, hitting those points where like, oh my gosh, I'm starving. Where's the snacks for me to kind of grab? So there's benefits of, hey, we're putting the protein in your body that's necessary for you to actually build muscle. We're putting the water in your body that's necessary for you to like function
and feel good.
Feel good in a healthy manner. But we're also keeping you from eating. That's taking the place of other poor foods that you would have been eating if you weren't doing that.
I would say that like the statement that I try to live by with nutrition to keep it simple is just trying to fuel myself for exercise. Like I want to fuel myself for activity. I don't want to, worry about a specific body fat that I need to get to, and I'm going to do everything in my power to get there and feel like crap all the time, right? I want to fuel myself to be able to train. I want to fuel myself to be able to play with kids, fuel myself to play any like I want to be able to do activity all day, every day. And if I don't fuel myself correctly, I'm not going to be able to do that.
Yeah. It's obviously like, form follows function. Like you want to look like you've been training for 10 years, you got to train for 10 years.
You got to train for 10 years first.
So we like our strategies should be ones that have like that long-term approach in mind. Very cool.
Yeah.
What's any other examples or tips for keeping it simple?
Man, find somebody to do it with you.
Oh, there you go.
Find one person or find a group of people. Find one person to keep it simple with you, that you can push each other, but that you're not going to just very bounce from program to program. Because I see, you see it all the time in mainstream gyms. It's like, well, I'm running this program, and then I'm not really liking it, so maybe I'm going to go hop on this program that this person that has 1 million followers on Instagram offers, and you just program hop, and you don't really make progress. But you get you feel good sometimes.
I think there's a degree of like, we talk about this a lot, but like the level method, what I love about is it forces you to kind of like focus on your weak points.
100%.
And so what ultimately happens is you kind of do stuff you're bad at.
Yep.
And
that's what we don't want to do. That's what we don't like to do.
Right. And so like if progress is the goal, then if we continue, like if we're trying to build general health and fitness and make forward progress, like we need to focus on our weak points and target those and get better there. And so like that simplifies kind of your task in front of you.
Yeah.
Like we can look at it and go, like, what's the biggest thing I need to focus on? Well, it's this. Unfortunately, that means I'm going to have to do some things that like I'm not the best at.
Yep. Well, I mean, that's why we get, ex-college football players in here following the level method that can squat a house, and it's like, all right, what's your lowest level? Well, my rings are yellow. It's like, I've never done any gymnastics training before. Yeah. It's like, a guy can squat 550, but gymnastics are just obscene to them. So, but it forces them to work on that skill.
Yep.
And then in turn, they just level up slowly over time, which is awesome. It's why it works, right?
Yeah. Yeah, if you can kind of like keep your objective simple and kind of say like, because the question would be like, well, what are your goals? I mean, I can list out like 100 of those. Like,
I can go all day.
Yeah, like what's ideal? What's all this? But again, when you lay all those out, you end up getting distracted by all these things, and you go like, well, I'm gonna do gymnastics for a little bit, but now I don't want to really work on it. I miss doing Olympic lifting. I'm going to go do Olympic lifting. Now I'm going to build some strength. And you end up just like not taking any time. You're not taking the appropriate time.
Yeah.
Not taking consistent, appropriate action to make progress in the thing that you need to focus on. I think that's, I would say like in my own personal life, like I've really had like singular focused training points. I mean, so, like, when I played football, my goal was to get better at football, right?
Yep.
Then I went to powerlifting, and it was like, I'm trying to get better at powerlifting. And it really wasn't until I got into, like, the CrossFit group training realm, I was like, okay, well, here's a lot of things to focus on.
Good at,
But one of the benefits, I think, of having that background was, like, I'm comfortable with and understand the necessity to, like, focus on this for an extended period of time. And, God, like, it's frustrating because I'm like, trying to do the handstand work for a year was a long time. And like, but that's what it took for me to get good at handstands was multiple days a week for an entire year. I had to focus on getting better at handstands. And that's like, that's what it took for me. But in the grand scheme of things, like a year's a worthy allotment of time.
Well, I mean, you did, 52 weeks times 3 times a week that you're focusing on. I thought, can't do math right off the top of my head. It's at least 150 sessions that you put in focusing on one thing.
Right.
Which is why you made a lot, like, you didn't necessarily make progress overnight, but seemingly it felt like it happened very quickly because you put in the extra time on that one specific thing. You didn't go, all right, I'm going to work on handstands. I'm going to squat this morning. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And then, I'm going to spend an hour and a half doing just a whole bunch of stuff. You spent probably 30 minutes, maybe a little bit longer on handstands.
Yeah, 100%. Yep.
3 days a week, every week for a year, and that's why you made progress.
Yeah. And I think when, again, when we were talking about perspective earlier, it's like when you've got decades of training underneath your belt, right, and you have a vision for like a lifetime of training, like the idea of like taking a year to focus on something doesn't seem like that big of an investment. But if you've only been training for 6 months, and someone says like for the next year you need to focus on this, you're like, what? My entire perspective is 6 months. You're trying to double that? Ugh, like I don't know if I want to focus on that.
And that's just that's why our newer athletes, that's why they have so much success with the level method, right? Because it's that planned variability that they come in and they hit movements they haven't done before and they suck at them, and then we don't hit those movements for 2 months, and then they hit them again. They're like, wow, I've made progress from the other movements we've been doing. That's why, we have less injuries because of that, because we don't deadlift heavy every week, right? We do like 4 or 5 weeks at a time, take a month or 2 off of heavy deadlift, maybe have some light deadlifts in a Metcon. But it's not a traditional strength training program. We're hammering heavy weight every week
Yeah.
after week, right? We're just hitting one area, moving to the next, and then when we come back to that area, you're like, wow, like I'm newer to fitness and I made this much progress,
Yep.
and I've hardly worked on this in 2 months.
Yeah.
So it's awesome.
Which is surprising to me as
Yeah.
well. Like, because I came from the background of like, well, I deadlifted every single week.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, it kind of somewhat blows my mind that I'm getting better at deadlifts without deadlifting.
Without deadlift, yeah.
And like not doing a ton of strength training, you know.
And it's just that overall your overall fitness
Yeah.
base just keeps getting bigger, especially from the 2 decades. But it just keeps getting bigger so that you can just rely on that deadlift that like done this.
Yeah, and I think that like the benefit of like, hey, taking a year to focus on the handstands is like now that I have it, I don't have to train it every year.
No.
Or I don't have to train it every week.
Yeah.
I can train it somewhat inconsistently and still have it because I can't not train it at all.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
because I kept it simple,
Yep.
built that habit, now I've got it,
Yeah.
or that capacity. Now I've got that capacity, and
As long as you hit it occasionally, you're gonna be
occasionally,
fine. Yeah.
I've got it. Now I can stack on top of that.
Yeah.
But if you're bouncing from program to program to program to program, you're not building any consistency where you're
Exactly.
gonna.
Well, it's like if you'd have gone from 0 handstand pushups to 12 in 2 months and then didn't do a single handstand pushup for the next 8, you would probably be right back at 0.
Yeah,
you know?
right.
It's like,
Yeah.
okay, I got here. Okay, I'm done with that. I'm not ever going to do that again. Like people that do the couch to 5K program, stuff like that, where they don't run, then they run a 5K and then they stop running. It's like, oh, you go right back to the couch. That's what happens.
Right. Yeah. The in between. There's no in between.
Yeah.
If you're not continuing to maintain it. All right. What's your next tip for maintaining consistent progress?
Okay, so my next tip for maintaining consistent progress, and this is going to be one that when I was younger, when I was like in my early 20s, late teens, like would never have believed this, but intensity trumps all other variables of fitness. And what I mean by that is like I've had sessions when I was in my early 20s that lasted 3 hours that I did like 20 exercises that were not as hard as a 3-minute workout I've done in the CrossFit space, right? That I made more progress in that 3-minute workout than I did in that 3-hour workout. So, people think that they need to do this, they need to do that, and they just need to keep adding more and more and thinking that more is going to be better, and more is not better. More is just more. It's just you're just doing more. We need to focus on doing things better at a higher intensity. And then, once we do that, we've got consistency doing stuff like that in shorter time domains, we can add more.
Yeah.
Come to an hour class, give it everything you got, and then don't worry about it till the next class.
Yeah.
And then once you do that for a year and you come 5 days a week, then we can worry about more exercise.
Yeah.
But just getting better and moving at higher intensities, depending on the workout range. If it's 3 minutes versus 20, obviously that's different. But those are both high intensity workouts compared to somebody that goes to the gym for an hour, does some bicep curls, does some bench press.
Yeah, I've used the analogy. We talk about like losing body weight, right?
Yeah.
And I've said like one of the reasons people struggle is because they don't have the ability to actually burn the amount of calories necessary to lose body fat. And so the analogy that I use is like, well, how many calories does it take to do a bicep curl versus to do a jumping pull-up versus to do a regular pull-up versus to do a kipping pull-up, which is more powerful and takes more calories. To do a butterfly pull-up to then do a muscle-up. And they all stimulate the bicep equally, but one is probably 10 times the caloric energy expenditure.
Way more metabolic than just a bicep curl. And movements like that, movements like kipping pull-up to butterfly pull-up to muscle-up are so much, you can't BS those movements. You can't do that movement at a 1 out of 10, you know? Whereas a bicep curl, you could be a big, strong dude and get a 15-pound dumbbell, like do it all day. And get a pump.
The intense, and I mean, obviously we're talking intensity, we're talking like percent of like output, maximum output. But even like the mental engagement required, like the coordination required to do a single joint movement is not great.
No.
The coordination required to do a multi-joint movement under control is greater, and the the neurological focus that is required to do a multi-joint movement powerfully and under control at high velocity is extremely huge.
Yep.
And if we're looking at it from the standpoint of like building the whole human fitness component, hypertrophy or like physique is a piece of that.
Yeah.
But athleticism and coordination are other major pieces involved as well. And
Definitely.
And those higher intensity multi-joint movements, they engage all that at a higher rate.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I also think we're talking about like what's our biggest struggle is time. It's having the time to do it. So it's like, hey, look, you probably don't have to work out if you're a subsistence farmer.
Yeah.
You know, like if all day long
you move 12 hours a day in the heat. Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely.
like you don't need to work out.
Yeah.
Like you're getting all the components of fitness you need. You're bending down and you're squatting and you're getting the mobility and you're having to
putting stuff on your shoulder.
Yeah, you're lifting heavy stuff and you're building all your zone 2 cardiorespiratory respiratory stuff. Like you don't have to do that. But for the person like you woke up, went into your kitchen and sat down.
Yep.
You went from laying, went and sat.
Yep.
You went from your kitchen to your car and sat some more, and from your car to your work and you sat some more.
Yep.
And you went from your house back or from your work seat back to your house to eat dinner sitting, to watching TV sitting, to going back to your bed.
And laying down. Yep. So what is that? 98% of your time is either spent prone or seated?
Yeah. You going to the gym and doing a couple of like isolated machines done in a like done without a whole lot of effort, or like you going and sitting on the treadmill or on the recumbent bike, sitting again, and while watching TV while you're walking, it's like, man, like that just ain't gonna get it done.
No,
that's not enough to counterbalance what you did all day every day. And so if you don't want to work out for 4 hours, like hey, like you want to go walk, like and put a ruck on and walk for 4 hours, like that would probably counterbalance it. If like I don't got 4 hours, I got 30 minutes. Well, we got to do some.
We got to hit something hard that your body can handle. That can move you forward. I mean, I wonder how many hours we as a community or as a country waste every year on the Stairmaster, the treadmill, or the elliptical. Like you go to a commercial gym, they have hundreds of those machines. Like how many old guys go in there and do that for an hour, and they do that every day. 6 days a week. That's 6 hours a week they could be training. And they're going to walk at the same speed till the day they die. You know, nothing changes.
Well, yeah, you're never seeing like they're not pushing themselves. Like they're taking consistent action, but it's not appropriate.
Yeah,
you know, they're not moving themselves forward.
And it's one of those things that if you sat them down and talked to them about it, they probably were like, yeah, you know, this is when I first started coming to the gym. This is the first thing I did. It made me feel good, and I started making a little bit of progress. So I just kept doing it the whole time.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you did make progress because you went from doing nothing to something. Yeah. But now, you know, we can't just continue on this path.
Yeah. And what you said earlier was like interesting is it's like when you first start like that intensity, it may be all you got. Like, so like you may be doing a workout and like, because you don't have the history of doing like intense work, 8 to 12 minute intense workouts, like that 8 to 12 minutes is it's gonna smoke you.
Yeah, and it's gonna. I mean, that 8 to 12 minutes is gonna feel like you've been here for 2 hours.
Yeah, you're gonna get tired and be probably tired for more portions of the day because of that.
Yeah.
But like eventually you'll adapt, and what'll happen is in that 8 to 12 minutes you'll be able to do more work.
Yep.
Like we can either take the same workout and you'll do it faster, or within that same time domain, you're going to be able to do more actual work.
Yeah.
And your body's going to be able to recover from it better. And that's kind of the beauty. It's like you've gotten more fit, and because you got more fit, like you can do more cool things, but also those cool things have less of a like negative impact outside the gym. They actually have like start having a pretty big positive impact.
And they take less time. Think about somebody coming in and doing a traditional like hypertrophy workout and doing 300 reps in an hour and a half, and then you just go do 300 reps in 10 minutes. You know, you hold 30 reps a minute for 10 minutes. That is a whole different feeling and you're going to make a progress 10 times as fast as this person is taking 90 minutes.
Yeah.
You know,
one of the things I used to talk about when I was doing powerlifting was like the importance of having cardiovascular fitness is significant regardless of what your goal is.
Yeah.
Because you understand is like we always recover aerobically.
Yeah.
So we may have a high output and our heart rate will go up in the levels,
Yep.
up in the zones, but it's going to start returning back down.
Yep.
And at some point it's going to come back to a recovery heart rate. And the cardiovascular system is going to be taking oxygen and nutrients and metabolic byproducts and CO2 and shuttling it throughout your system, right?
Yep.
And that's how recovery takes place. And so the more well-developed that system is, the better you can recover.
Yep.
And so like we can look at it from like two ways is if you have 1 hour to train, the person who has the better cardiovascular fitness is going to be able to do more stuff in that 1 hour
Yep.
and recover better on the back end from it.
Exactly.
So they can create more stimulus. So if like you and I are doing, let's say 5 sets of 5 on squats, and it takes me 5 minutes to recover between sets,
Yep.
and it takes you 2 minutes to recover between sets, you're going to finish before I can and be able to get more stuff done in that hour.
Yep.
Right? And the other or the other benefit of it is we can do the same workout and you just get done faster.
Yep.
Which means now you spend more time in recovery,
Yep.
getting to refuel yourself nutritionally. So I remember when like we were powerlift, like especially when we were in gear, like sometimes it would take 2 hours just to do the
squats.
just to do the squats. You know, that's not any of your recovery stuff.
Yeah.
And I can imagine, like, well, man, if we were in much better cardiovascular fitness,
Yeah.
could we taken this 3 hour workout and reduced it to an hour and a half? Well, what kind of impact would that have had, like, on our body's ability to recover? That's an extra hour and a half of us being in a recovery heart rate and putting fuel in our body.
And that's funny because I don't think anybody ever thinks of it like that. Like, this is just the gym session. This is how long it takes, you know, to lift that like heavy weight like that. But that's an interesting perspective. I've never thought of like, well, now you have an extra 90 minutes to recover before you can train again.
Yeah.
You know, so maybe you'll feel better the next day, and then you feel better. You know, you're taking shorter. You know, that compounds day after day, and you just feel better week. Maybe I don't know. Maybe there's something to be said about all this.
Even in bodybuilding, like it was, you know, you're trying to accumulate all this volume and all this stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, well, if you can do that volume in a shorter period of time, and you can get your, like, you understand, like, when you're training, you're placing high levels of stress on yourself.
Yeah.
So if you can get out of that stressful state sooner, you're going to have more recovery time, which is going to allow your body more time to build muscle, more time to recover the nervous system, all that kind of stuff. And I can imagine the compounding effects of that over a longer period of time.
Well, and that's, you know, like, especially with like the CrossFit style community, that's why the elite CrossFitters, like, a lot of them look like they could hop on stage, because it is not a lie. I mean, you can build hypertrophy with a high heart rate, you know, with that aerobic deal that you talked about. So it's just,
which is like to think that you need to do dumbbell curls to build biceps is foolish. Like if you look at a gymnast, you'll quickly see, like,
who's got the biggest arms in the gym?
That gymnast has just as big of biceps as everyone else. To think that you need to do leg extensions to build your quads is like, well, have you looked at a cyclist?
Yeah.
Like
legs are
especially
massive.
It's called a melodrome, or, you know, their legs are huge.
Yep.
Not to say that they don't do squats, but it's not their primary form of training. And so, but both build hypertrophy, but one's building overall fitness
At the same time. Yeah.
And so if you can, again, if you can learn to do that in a shorter period of time and still recover, you'll be able to do more stuff.
Yep.
Build your fitness and have a higher stimulus, and that's the way that you get better. Is pretty simple. Is you continue to increase the stimulus.
Yeah.
You know, it's got progressive overload. It is the way it works.
Yep.
If you cannot continue to do the exact same thing and make poor progress. Like if you do 15 pounds for 10 reps, at some point,
You got to do 20 pounds for 10 reps.
or 15 for 15
Yeah,
reps.
or 15 for 15, yep.
Or you have to do it on a more frequent basis. Instead of doing it once a week, you got to do it twice a week.
Yep.
Or instead of doing it twice a week, 3 times a week. Or maybe every day. Like, that's the way that you kind of push it forward. Like, progress comes from creating greater and greater and greater stimulus.
Yep.
But that can be a lot to kind of be like, oh, crap, well, how am I going to do that? Because
I've never done any of this training before, yeah.
yeah, or to kind of like compound that out and be like, oh my gosh, well, like, my training will last 3 hours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But the idea is like, well, if we're creating stimulus across the entire capacity, spectrum of capacity, the training time may or may not really change. You just may be able to do more stuff within that 1 hour.
You're able to get so much more done, and then you're more fit because of it, right?
Bingo.
That's just awesome.
100%. All right, what's your third tip for consistent progress?
All right, so my third tip is kind of something I feel like we're pretty big on here, and just attacking your fitness from a growth mindset, right?
Yeah.
So, and this goes back to what we said in point 1 with the level method. Is like growth mindset to me in fitness means finding what you suck at, finding what you're weak at, and just hammering that consistently and simply until you're not so bad at it, and then just finding the next piece. I like when I think of fitness from a long-term thing, like I'm never going to be fit in terms of like I'm never going to be as fit as I want to be.
Yeah.
There's always going to be something else for me to work on.
Yeah.
You know, I'm fit, but I'm not as fit as I want to be.
You're going to be satisfied fully with your fitness level.
Yeah. And there's always going to be something I can get better at, right? And then eventually, you know, I'm going to be 50 and maybe progress will slow. I don't know. There's CrossFitters that are 60 and 70 that are as fit as they've ever been. So who knows what will be like then. But when you think of it long term like that, it's just you just always want to grow your fitness. And in doing that, you'll grow your lifespan. You should grow your relationships. Yeah. And then everything around your life should be better from the level of fitness you keep building up.
Yeah. I think the whole growth mindset is a powerful concept that another thing I think I didn't understand it or wasn't aware of it, but I definitely didn't embrace it in my 20s. It was more I was more closed off. Yeah. You know, but the idea behind the growth mindset is really it's seeking discomfort.
Yeah.
That could be physical discomfort. It can be mental discomfort. It can be social discomfort. It's putting yourself in situations that are going to force you to grow. Like last night, Jennifer and I were talking, and I can't remember exactly the words she said, but it was something along the lines of like, is adversity required for growth? And I was like, well, yeah, 100% it is. Now, like, why do some people face adversity and have negative outcomes, and some other people face adversity and have positive outcomes? That's just like it's all about your approach to that adversity, and that's what that growth mindset allows you to do. Is like somewhat seek that adversity. That adversity, like the beauty of the level method is it kind of shows you like this is not what you're good at. So when I see that, you know what it is? It's flexibility.
Yep.
And my body just does not want to move a lot.
Yeah.
I'm not good at it at all. I like literally I do my mobility routines. I'm like looking at the person doing it. I'm like, I can't get to the halfway point to do that. They go like the model on the right is doing the advanced version. The model on the left is doing the non-advanced version. I'm like, I need a
beginner. I need
the even less advanced version. I can't get to either of those positions.
I need the white version.
100%. And but like, it's so uncomfortable. But in doing so, like, you just start to slowly see the progress happen. And that builds momentum where I'm like, you start to seek that discomfort. It's like, I can see that when I get in this uncomfortable situation, on the backside of it, I'm better off for it.
Yeah, definitely.
That's happened in my life physically. It's happened in my business life. It's happened in my personal life. And so eventually you kind of, we were talking about, you kind of get to that point where you're like, I'm kind of not happy about adversity, but it's like, I see the opportunity in adversity. And I think that's a powerful message to people who are like starting off is like huge, going to the gym where I've never been is a big old scary punch in the face of discomfort.
Yeah. And I even me have done this for 10 years. When I go into it, if I go into a new gym, sometimes I still get like the nervous jitters. Like, oh man, I hope people think I know what I'm doing. Like, even after doing this for 10 years, so it's like if you're listening to this and you could take one thing from this podcast, I would say attack things from a growth mindset. Yep. That's what we did. Me and David had no clue what we were doing when we started training. Like when you first started training, I had no idea. And now I've been doing it for 10 years. I have a lot better idea. But I'm still growing and learning. And it's going to be the same thing for you. If you just get into the gym, you're going to have no idea what to do, but you're not the first person that's been there. Everybody starts something having no clue. Yeah. And you just got to stay the course and stay simple, add some intensity to it. And then, of course, just attack it from this growth mindset that we're talking about.
100%. Yeah, the statement I've made is everyone had a first day in the gym.
Yeah. And we could probably gather around a fire and all probably pretty funny, We
could all tell the stories about the goofy stuff we did.
Yeah.
But like going back to like most people want to be that fit person who's like been doing it for a while, who walks in the gym and has some comfort level. And it's like, man, that the way that we get there, I take it one step at a time. Yep. And every step along the way is gonna be hard. Yeah. I have yet to come back. Like I've never gone in the gym and had like an easy workout or like a workout where I couldn't have gone like, I'll just go eat pizza. Yeah, right. Like there's days where I'm motivated and days where I'm unmotivated, but I think like people need to understand is like the difference isn't really whether or not we feel like working out that day or not. No, like I would venture to say that like we all have the exact same feelings in approaching the gym. Yep. There are days you're like, God, I don't feel like doing this. Yep. Like I said, like there's times you're like, crap, I gotta go to this other gym. Yep. I'm out of town. I want to get a workout in. I gotta step in this gym. That's kind of scary. Yeah. And
maybe I just won't do it. Yeah.
It's not my comfort zone. I'm on vacation. Yeah. I won't do that. Like we all feel that like we've all experienced that, and we all continue to experience that. We all experience the like, man, I'm just gonna hit this alarm. Yep. I'm gonna sleep in and skip this one today. Yep.
And I think that just goes back to none of us are special, right? We all struggle with the same stuff. We all do the same. Sin is present. We all struggle with the same sins. It's the same thing with our fitness. Yeah. Like even your highest level athlete is going to have probably 20% of the time they come to the gym like, man, I don't want to do this. Like I'm not doing this today. Yeah. And then instead of not doing it, they just do it anyway. Yeah. Right. Clock counts down 3, 2, 1. We just do it.
Yeah. The ultimate skill set is the ability to like feel that way, yet can take the action anyway. Yep. Mm-hmm. And then the ultimate goal is to figure out what are the pieces I can put in place that are going to kind of trigger me to take that action. Yep. Definitely. And we preach this all the time, and it's coaching.
It's guidance. Guidance-based fitness. Yeah.
It's guidance-based fitness. It's the knowing I'm going to meet so-and-so this day. Yep. Or knowing that, at least once I get to the gym, I don't have to think about what I'm going to do when I get there. Yep. Or at least I'm not going to be doing this by myself. Mm-hmm. Those are like, that's the impact of guidance-based fitness is that it forces that consistency in there. It's like the statement, knowledge is power. I'm kind of like, maybe at one point it was. Yeah. But knowledge is not a limited resource.
It's accessible to anybody now. With the internet, you can find out anything you want to know. That doesn't mean you're going to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Literally, you can know as much as I know about fitness. Yeah. There's nothing keeping you from doing that. Yep. Knowledge isn't power. Taking action
100%
is the power. Yeah. And if you have the knowledge without the action, it's worthless. So that's a great one to end it on. Yeah. With regards to like the tips. All right, Matt. Thanks for coming on the podcast, brother. Sure. All right, MBS Fitness Radio out.
Thank you for listening to NBS Fitness Radio. If you enjoyed the podcast, be sure to share it with your friends, follow us on social media, and check out our website at www.nbsfitness.net. Hit the subscribe button and tune in next time for more NBS Fitness Radio.